views presented in this program are not meant to express the specific views of the Lafayette Bible Fellowship. You are listening to the Vigilance Radio Network.
All right, welcome to Culture and Sanity. This is a show where we discuss the things that are happening in popular culture and how it connects to a Christian worldview. This is James. He is a pastor at a Lafayette Bible Fellowship, and he is taking over for Pastor Adam, who sadly has left us.
Yes.
Actually, I'm kidding. He hasn't left us. He's pursuing other things in his ministry. You can actually check him out on I guess you'd call it a sister show, The Bible with Pastor Adam. It's for kids. And he's working through that, getting all of his all the Bible stories out there for kiddos. So that's available on the VRN. In the meantime, we are left running the ship. I am Pastor Josh. If you recall, I was around for seasons 1 and 2, I think, of this show. And this is season 5 of Culture and Sanity. So we're going to do things a little bit differently for this show. We're going to use the television back here a little more. And we're going to try to follow a little bit different format. We're going to still talk about stories, like what's going on in the news, what's happening. But we're also going to take a look at what's trending. So, and we're going to look at it in real time, so that could be pretty interesting. We might do some movie reviews. We might do maybe even some Trivial Pursuit we have back here. I don't know if you can actually see it, but it's right there.
Yes.
And, yeah, and then we're also going to ask some questions of the culture. As always, this is a conversation, so why don't we get started with James telling us a little bit about himself and why he feels qualified to talk about culture.
Why I feel qualified?
Why are you on the show, James?
I am, I'm on the show because obviously I've lived in the culture for a long time. Mm-hmm. Is that a qualification?
Sure.
Okay. And I do my best to keep track of as much stuff as going on as possible through all the data that we have thrown at us on a regular basis. So I've got an extensive reading list, let's say, that takes up a large portion of every day.
And what would you say is your preferred area of pop culture, like the area of pop culture that you deal with the most? Like that you gravitate toward? We all have our thing. Like I love comic books and movies and pretty much every area of pop culture. But, what's yours?
Well, actually, I find myself, especially right now, still drawn back to those favorites of my youth. Rewatching some of the old anime that I watched when I was young.
Okay.
A lot of the science fiction stuff. So rewatching things like, Star Trek and, Star Wars and the sci-fi fantasy stuff primarily. Anything that tickles that far-flung future with technologies between the stars is great.
And are you, just so that we can get on the record with this,
yes.
Are you a Star Wars person, a Star Trek person? What's your thoughts?
I think they both have their place. I'd have to say that Star Trek has actually impacted the world in a much more real way. You see some of the technologies that we have available now that were almost basically pioneered on the show coming to real life. So it definitely has had, I think, more of an impact on things that we use on a regular basis and where the technologies are headed and the things that we're pushing for technology-wise. Star Wars has its place. It's a great story, great sci-fi fantasy. So it tickles that imagination and the seeking to escape from what maybe a reality. I'm still waiting for an actual fully functional lightsaber. I did watch Truth Time,
Mm-hmm.
right here on the
I didn't get a
internet.
chance to look into that. Did you?
Yes, it lasts for 30 seconds. It's basically a plasma arc.
And then it just comes back
And then it
down
comes back
because
down.
yeah. So it's not sustained.
No, the guy was talking about, because there's
I told Pastor Monty that's not real.
right, he was talking about if there was a fight, because there's also a lightsaber that's basically just a plasma rod that,
Right.
that heats up. He said the guy who invented the one that just 30-second plasma arc said the fight would have to be over really quick because I've only got 30 seconds. So
Okay. Okay. Well, with that said, let's jump into it. So, there's a couple stories going on. The big story that is being talked about that's kind of affecting the culture at the moment is this story about Neil Young, basically. And let me pull that up here so we can get it up there. Now there's a little banner ad here. But yeah, there's Neil Young and Joe Rogan. You want to frame that conversation there, James?
yeah, certainly. So Neil Young has he put forth a letter, an open letter to his manager, basically saying that he was going to remove or wanted Spotify to remove his music or remove Joe Rogan. They just did a deal, like $100 million deals to be the exclusive distributor of Joe Rogan's podcasts.
Mm-hmm.
So he basically went to bat saying you can either have Young or you can have Joe.
Right.
He then retracted that letter, but Spotify still took action. And from what I understand, since they removed Neil's music, their customer service line has been ringing off the hook.
Mm-hmm.
They can't keep up with the number of calls complaining about the move that they made in that regard.
What's that line in Sweet Home Alabama? It's like, I hope... It's Neil Young, right, that they're referencing in that? I hope Neil Young... Man, I'm going to have to look that up. Anyway, okay, so how do we...
Got me on that one time.
How do we have this conversation in regard to... How does this connect to theology? This is the big question that matters. Or maybe not theology, but Christian living. What's the deeper conversation we want to have here?
I think you really need to look at how it is that we operate in the world and how it is that we use whatever influence that we have to make a change. There's also aspects of greed and largesse and the feeling of self-importance necessarily to be able to utilize your platform in that regard. So how is it that we wisely use our influence on things? How is it that we seek to educate people? How it is that we filter what it is that we take in even?
Yeah. Okay. So to start with, let's go back to Sweet Home Alabama.
Okay, you found it?
I just looked it up. It's straight on Wikipedia. So there's a controversy for Sweet Home Alabama. It was written in an answer to two songs by Neil Young, Southern Man and Alabama, because the songs took the entire South to task for the bloody history of slavery and its aftermath. It says, "We thought Neil was shooting all the ducks in order to kill just one or two," said Ronnie Van Zant at the time. The line is, "Well, I heard Mr. Young sing about her. Well, I heard old Neil put her down. I hope Neil Young will remember a Southern man don't need him around." So Neil Young is not without controversy throughout time, and one of our most famous rock songs, speaks about him. So yeah, I guess the question is, what do we think about this? What do we think about the fact that this guy right here is pulling off his music from Spotify because of this guy right here? In other words, you've got, in my mind, when I frame it, you arguably have two artists, right? Now, one is a commentator without rhyme, right?
Well, yeah.
But when we go back to it, Neil Young is a commentator, and the Sweet Home Alabama thing, illustrates it perfectly, right? And he actually believes that his music should compete in that space, and he sees Joe Rogan as competition for that, right? So I guess the question is that valid? What do you think?
Well, I guess it just really, I mean, does it come down to whether or not you feel threatened by, what else is going on? Is that where you were going with that kind of thing, or?
Well, I'm just wondering, is it valid for him to feel threatened in the first place? Should music just be perceived as music and not be perceived as commentary? So that's, I guess, the first question of that. And then the second question is the stage only allowed one type of commentary? Like, is freedom of speech? I guess it comes down to censorship.
Yeah. I mean, to a certain degree. I mean, you're literally just talking about the platform that it's delivered on. You can still catch Neil Young on all the other platforms.
Right. In fact, Apple released a promo,
right,
saying that they're the place for Neil Young.
Yeah, the home for Neil Young there. But I think, music has always been seen or been utilized as a platform to get a message across, a platform to communicate ideas, to even shape culture, to start revolutions, to sustain them. Everything marches to an anthem, and that anthem comes from whatever artist it is that you identify with and what their work is that they produce. You can definitely see his belief system in a supremeness, a creator that's there, and wanting to get back to the natural creation and that type of thing in his thoughts. He's more like a creation naturalist or something like that.
More nature-based.
More nature-based, getting back to a oneness with the universe and that type of thing.
Wait, are we talking about Neil Young or
Neil Young?
Yeah, because I was going to say, I think Joe Rogan is kind of
similar.
Yeah.
Similar in that he's Joe Rogan looks at all the different religions and takes from them what he thinks is good about them, and pushes away the stuff that he feels is bad, which is usually just what the people who say that they're Buddhists, say that they're Christians, and he throws the negative aspects of what they show in their everyday lives and how it matches up. So he looks at a big picture of what he actually sees as an example of those things.
So Spotify has 172 million premium subscribers, which is up from 144 million in 2020. So it's gone quite a bit, and that doesn't include the free users, or just users who access it. So that's a huge amount of people. I know that Pastor James and I both use Spotify as well, so it is of importance. Does this controversy affect your thoughts on subscribing?
It doesn't affect my thoughts on subscribing. I understand that when I subscribe to Spotify, I am basically opening myself up to whatever it is that they choose to provide content-wise. And so I personally am the person who is going to select what it is that I listen to, what I don't listen to, what I take stock in, what I don't take stock in. I'm not under the disillusion that they have me and what it is that I'm taking in as their best interest. They have in their best interest what it is that they can, advertise to me, what it is they can, make money off of me for. I'm their product, really, when it comes down to it.
What do we think about the concept of canceling a platform?
Yeah, I don't.
Like that's essentially what's going on here, right?
There's an attempt, yes.
Yeah, it's. I'm thinking into politics. You've got, Biden and Trump, right? And they're used they're used to cancel each other's platforms out. You know, the Republicans are all summed up in Trump, and vice versa, right? And is that a valid way to look at the platform? Is it really a conversation of Spotify is now either run by Neil Young or it's run by Joe Rogan? And is that what it amounts to if Spotify completely caves to this? Is that what it becomes? It's now Neil Young's network. What do you think about that?
I think that I don't know. My thought immediately goes to how dangerous it is for us to, silence all the other voices except for the ones we specifically want to hear.
Yeah.
There's a reason that there's freedom of speech. I'm thinking also of Google just went through this thing where they may have to censor some of their results just because they may lead to sites that other people wouldn't want to go to. I'd have to look up the exact story, but this idea that these people that aren't creating, they're just providing a platform for creators to get their information out. Why would they be responsible for what people are using their platform for? Mm-hmm. I'm the one that needs to make the conscious decision whether or not I'm going to partake in this. That's really me at work, instead of just expecting what I want to be spoon-fed to me by particular things. I don't think that we should be canceling a platform just because we don't agree with some of the content that platform has, personally.
Yeah, especially one that is set up for diversity that way.
Yeah, I mean,
it's like one thing if the platform has a moral,
Well, if it sets itself up as that moral voice, then it has a responsibility to live up to what it's saying. Hey, this is what I am. But Spotify is literally just, I'm a platform. Come use me, right?
Right.
And you have numerous artists all across different fields of music and podcasts and information that's available on that platform, and you can pick and choose and search and take hold of what it is that you want and discard what doesn't speak to you, what you don't want to listen to.
Yeah. Adam Kunkel, former host, is gone but not forgotten. He's hard at work posting right now. Adam, why aren't you with us? You're just
we can hook up a third mic and
there you go. Let's see. We could call him in. He says, if the stage is only allowed one type of commentary, please don't let it be Neil Young.
Okay. All
yes,
right.
the Southern boys don't need him around.
Not a big fan.
Let's see. He also posted that the sound seems real low, so hopefully they're working on that. It sounds great in our headphones.
Yes, well, I believe that is something that they're working on, Josh. I think I saw something.
Okay. I can't see that because I can't actually see our studio monitors at the moment. But anyway, he says, with all due respect to Neil Young, he's in a losing battle with a modern cultural juggernaut, and in a him or me battle with Joe Rogan, he'll lose 10 times out of 10. Rogan has surpassed all major news networks in average viewership. New York is only trying to hop on the cancel Joe Rogan train for the guy. No, not New York. He says NY. Neil Young. Neil Young is only trying to hop on the cancel Joe Rogan train for the guy trying to hold open discourses on hot topics. Lame. He put with multiple A's. Kudos to Spotify for standing their ground. Yeah, I wonder how long Spotify is going to stand their ground, especially because now you have some people jumping on his bandwagon and understanding that they can use it as a platform. Mm-hmm. Joni Mitchell is another one, which is interesting. She comes from that era, same era as Neil Young. Well,
it's an activist era, right? I mean,
right? Yeah, that's interesting.
They are the quote unquote hippie culture, the ones that moved for revolution and for change, and that permeates even the art that they've produced during those periods. So.
Yeah. In looking at this, it's an interesting conversation. I'm not sure how much it connects to our faith, really, other than just going back to the idea of cancel culture and people getting up in arms about how something is used, but they're really misusing it. And the truth is that Spotify, like YouTube, like even Facebook, these things are platforms that have a diversity of content. So it is one thing if you started with a position and then all of a sudden you change, And I get it if it was the activist platform. Well, that's not even true though.
No.
He's not even. Neil Young was not considered conservative.
No.
That's funny. That's pretty funny because this is Joe Rogan. Even though he is considered conservative, him and Neil Young are
come from similar types of worldviews.
Yeah. Let's see. Adam says, right, an aged-out relevance. Neil Young may be easy to shrug. What happens when, say, Ed Sheeran or something tries the same type of threat against Spotify? What will their resolve be? Yeah, it's a great question. And I just want to throw out there, Adam's just talking in the chats. The rest of you are able to talk in the chats too. If you want to join the discussion, we are monitoring the chats as well. So, but I'm not really sure if we should be getting all up in arms about it. There is something to be said for the fact that these things are machines too, and if you actually want to support an artist, there's many ways to do so.
Absolutely.
Spotify is not a great generator a generator for revenue, unless you have a lot, like a ton of streams. I guess Neil Young somehow connects to that because I guess he's very popular.
Popular enough to crash the customer service at Spotify with
Yeah.
his followers. So
Yeah, although I do think it's a good point that his listeners are probably from a generation who would do that. I don't know that people would do that in the newer generations.
I got to be honest. I mean, I guess technically I could kind of identify with that, but I'm not going to spend my time calling customer service for Spotify. I'll just go over to the next platform
Right.
that has it available and start
Right.
listening to it there.
Right. Okay. So, anyway, we can move on from that topic. If you guys have thoughts or you want to comment more on it, let us know, and we will talk more about it. And we'll be interested to see what begins to happen with that platform. Wow. Adam just called you out. He says, James, don't tiptoe around it. You're old. And then a heart.
I don't believe I tiptoed though. I self-identified.
Right, you self-identified.
I did.
Yes. Okay. In the meantime, we are going to switch gears a little bit here, and we're going to take a look at what's trending right now, what's happening virally, which seems like the wrong type of verbiage to use in this culture, with
the pandemic?
with
What?
COVID, yeah. But yeah. So we're going to switch over and get out of this Neil Young story. It's not really that big a deal, and we're going to talk about what's trending. Cue the music. Nice. You were able to pivot. I was just joking because we don't have music for that, so they were able to do that. Okay, so I'm sure you can't see this on the screen, but you can kind of see Mom goes viral for celebrating a kid's birthday on the wrong day. So we're looking at the culture, and we're just going to kind of scroll through these and pick one. James, why don't you stop us on something that seems interesting? Let's see. Oh, yeah, here's this one. I saw this one last night. Let's take a look at this. This is the Sleepy Chicken.
Oh, Sleepy Chicken. This, I heard about this probably about a month ago.
It's a new TikTok trend. Let's see. Okay.
For the days of kids eating Tide Pods on the internet, but now we've come across an either just as bad or maybe worse trend called Sleepy Chicken. Buckle up for this one, friends. So apparently there is a TikTok trend right now where people are cooking, if you want to call it that, their chicken and cold or flu medicine like NyQuil, hence the name Sleepy chicken. Now, because this trend has taken over a ton of headlines and been talked about all over social media, doctors are warning people to not do this for several reasons.
Yeah.
One, you're likely taking way more than the appropriate dose, and two, if you're not cooking the chicken properly, you could give yourself food poisoning. And three, this one's the most obvious to me, it sounds completely disgusting. You all know I'm all here for a good TikTok recipe, but this is one I will be following doctor's orders on and not trying.
Blue chicken.
Okay, so why sleepy chicken?
Well, I think it's continuing a trend of, hey, can I do this? Yeah, probably.
Talk to me more about that.
Well, the idea of, hey, have you ever thought of doing this, taken to the extreme, right? Especially when it comes to like cold medicine specifically. I mean, cold medicine has been an easy way for people to overdose on stuff to get high.
Mm-hmm.
That type of aspect. What if I combine that possibility with food that I would eat on a regular basis? I guess. I don't know.
Well, is this going back to Tide Pods?
I don't know if it does. I know that the story referenced Tide Pods, which do have it. Well, it does have blue, I think, or it's kind of more of a deep purple. I don't know if that's related. I think it's just more in the long line of that challenge mentality type of thing. Yeah.
I wonder if sleepy chicken becomes a. I don't know why we're even talking about sleepy chicken, but I wonder if sleepy chicken becomes a point of delicacy.
Oh,
like
wow.
It's something like people order a sleepy chicken, or it's like, or is this something that people are just doing like a one-time thing to say I did it, and then they post it, and then they've got their 2 seconds of fame or whatever.
I
Like the
think
ice bucket challenge.
like well, that was supposed to. The ice bucket challenge
was for a reason.
supposed to have a reason.
You're right. You're right.
It
was for a
wasn't
reason.
just so people could get cold.
Yeah,
but-
that's true.
But there's nothing specific tied to this, challenge at all. If it is a challenge, I don't know that it is, and I hope not. But I'm not sure the purpose of cooking your chicken in anything other than, well, I wouldn't boil chicken to begin with. That's just bland.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on what you're boiling it in, I suppose. If it's NyQuil, it's probably not bland. Is this a good time to buy stock in NyQuil?
I don't play the market that much. I got to be honest. So.
Yeah. Okay, well, let's move on. Well, before we move on, I think your point is probably a good one. My microphone's real tight here. I think your point's probably a good one. It goes back to people not thinking through things and people wanting to be impulsive and rebel and go against what makes sense and go for what they can do.
Right. Well, you have this idea permeated that they've taken the YOLO, you only live once, right? So what is it that we can do? How is it that we can change our narrative so it doesn't appear the same old boring that our parents experience or they show, or what can we do to set ourselves apart or to experience that adrenaline rush? And I mean, I'm assuming there's some type of rush that's associated with taking NyQuil in chicken.
All right, so let's yeah, I'm sure there is. Okay, it looks like maybe Adam posted in the comments section about what doctors are saying. Okay, but let's take a look at this. So this is the next one. It is an employee swiftly shuts down manager after asking if they would come in on their day off, which sparks debate on TikTok, another platform that is so profoundly useful. Okay, so let's see. Okay, here we go. I just want to warn you guys. We don't know if these things have like cuss words or what they're showing, but this is what's trending, so it's relevant for us. So here we go. right. So there you have it. That is trending for what for whatever reason. Let's see. An employee is asked to come in on their day off. Come in on their day off by their manager. That's a common thing.
Right.
To which the employee quickly shuts down and then hangs up. Some of the comments felt that the manager was trying to guilt trip the employee, saying that they were short-staffed and could really use their help. Before the manager could ask again, the employee tells them no, tells them to have a nice day, cuts off the manager mid-speech before they can say anything else, and then promptly says, "Let's go to Target." It has 350,000 likes and over 4,000 comments, and there's a conversation about managers working extra shifts, if you should pick up your boss. Some were of the opinion that the employee was kind for even answering the phone call. Some people felt that his abruptness as an employee should be normalized, that people should be able to say no. What do we think about this? And specifically as Christians, like, what do we think about this?
I know the first thing that comes to mind for me, I've probably been that manager on the phone at one point in time.
I know I have. I definitely have.
You know, I don't know if that disqualifies me from, answering in regards to what the employee did was correct or not. The employee has the opportunity to say, no, I don't want to come into my day off.
Right.
I'm calling them because I'm in need of that. If they're not going to do that, that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
It depends on if there's any repercussions that the manager tries to pull because of it. That's where the issue would come in for me. But there's this huge trend right now about, it used to be called anti-work up until last week when there was a weird interview. But this idea that, your employer is greedy and they want everything from you and you need to do whatever you can to fight against them type of thing. It's almost reminiscent of, the call for unions back in the day type of thing,
Yeah. What's the Christian perspective on something like this? Should we be applauding the employee's behavior? Should we be looking down on the manager's behavior? Should we be applauding the manager's behavior? I'll just throw out there, as a manager currently and before I was a pastor, that's what you are supposed to do.
Right.
All you can do is ask. And I agree with James. It's, if you're coercive or something like that, or there's repercussions for it, that's a problem, yes. But is a manager not supposed to try to manage his ship well when something is sinking?
Absolutely.
Should he not be communicative with his employees? Is that guilting? Is that shaming them? Does that even become gaslighting? Are we so broken as a culture that we are unable to even accept when somebody asks for help?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So I don't have a problem with people saying no, that they can't work on the draft. That's not the expectation that if as a manager, if I call you, you're going to be there. The expectation is that if you're available and you want to work, then you come in and help out.
Yeah.
But I can't speak to what that manager's expectation was,
or even if that manager is a good manager,
right? But that's not what people are worried about anymore, right? It's
right.
that momentary flash, and in that momentary flash, you supposedly have a picture of the entire interaction or the entire life of those people, and I think that's where culture is really ingrained itself, and that's a dangerous place, especially for Christians.
Yeah.
To make those flash judgments based off of 30 seconds of video that seem to portray things a specific way. Perspective is a huge deal.
Well, the other thing that I'll throw out there is that there should be not just work ethic amongst believers, but there should be a goodwill toward your boss, the company that you work for, these things that provide for you. If you don't want to just be seen as a cog in the machine, then you shouldn't treat the machine as if it is just a machine, right?
Right.
So there's a certain level of thankfulness, and The thing that I didn't like about that video, it's not so much that he shut the manager down or that the manager asked. It's the way in which the shutting down occurred, which was completely removed from any sort of like concern for the well-being of the company that he works for or for the manager. It was completely apersonal, and that's what I take issue with. And as a Christian, that's what I would take issue with.
Well, definitely. That's the thought of the day, right? I do the work because it gives me money, and other than that, I don't care. And as Christians, that's not, we're not supposed to do things without thought and without meaning and without direction as to what we're doing. We've made a contract with the employer that we're going to be available and to work for them and to do our best for them. So we should take some type of care for that, even if you don't like your job. That shouldn't affect the way that you work it.
Right. In the comments, Tiffany Perry, one of our interns here, says there's a bunch of challenges out there for status and break out into doing whatever you want. People like to watch and be a part of something, even if it's their death. And then Adam Kunkel says, I bet Jamie Tart would do it. That is a reference to that one show, Ted Lasso. Adam's on a Ted Lasso kick right now. You should watch it if you can. It's delightful. Okay. So let's move on to the next one. Okay. This could be interesting. TikToker goes viral for sharing her dating trick. Is it a red flag or a savage move? You decide. Okay, let's see what happens here. Is the video available? Yeah, it is. Okay. Just warning you guys, we don't know what this video says.
Well, I know dating can be tough right now thanks to, the panorama. Let this viral TikTok remind you that you always have options. This TikToker, Sophia Franklin, is known for sharing dating anecdotes all over her feed. However, she recently went viral for this TikTok you're seeing, as it currently has over 4 million views. In this TikTok, you can see Sophia admit that on a date, she will pay the bartender for a shot and have them pretend to send it to her from someone else. That way, her date knows she has options. Well, I personally love her savage move. People in the comments were divided, with some praising Sophia for what she does and others telling her she dropped her red flags. Again, I'm all for Sophia letting her date know that she has options, but let me know your thoughts in those comments.
All right. Why is that why is that viral? That's what she is. 4 million views.
Wow.
The video has over 4 million views. That's how many subscribers took issue with going back to the Neil Young story. 4 million views to talk about this. Okay, so basically all it is that she has the bartender send her a shot as if it was from a customer. That way the guy thinks, I assume a guy, it could be a girl, I guess.
It didn't specify.
That way her potential suitors think that she's being pursued. What do you think about that? What do you think about that, first of all, the morality of it, and then second of all, that it's a viral thing?
I don't know. I don't know what to think about that. I got to be honest with you. It's part of me's worried about her feeling of self-worth, that she feels that she needs to do that in order to, keep the interest of the person that she's supposedly, on a date with.
Right.
Why is that necessary for her to have them, I guess essentially feel threatened for her affections in that way or something? Right. Is that something that she's thriving on?
Yeah, I think that's probably true, and it's also the reason why it has so many views, is because other people can relate to it, right? Where it's like they feel the same thing, and so why is that?
Well, they're seeking for value, Josh.
Right. Yes, I of course have insight into that, but I'm trying to generate discussion.
Why does anybody seek for extra value from their relationships with other people, and even what they can accomplish, and their status.
Yep. Okay, going back to the last one, John Parker commented, "I feel the same way, Josh. Also, their counter after, should we go to Target, further taxing an already short-staffed store." The manager asked if the guy would work. He said no. That should be the end of the story. Yeah, agreed. Why it's viral?
Oh.
I don't know. Okay, so going back to that user, yeah, it's just sad. Do we think it's amoral for her to have them send a is it lying?
Well, yeah, there's deception that's ingrained in that. This deception of, look at me, I must be so high value that other people are interested in me. So, I guess it's almost daring the date to make sure that they make a move and realize the prize.
All right, let's jump ahead to this one. This is Carhartt, which is a clothing brand, apparently announced that they will still mandate vaccinations for employees, and some people are not having it. This is a trending story right now. To give you a background on it, the Supreme Court decided, thankfully, that it is outside of the jurisdiction of the government to demand that small businesses make their employees be vaccinated. And so even though a lot of people were going to put that into place, they decided not to. The Supreme Court decided that wasn't okay, or interpreted that wasn't okay. And so now a lot of businesses are kind of pulling back from that. And some people are angry about that. That's basically how you say it.
That's a summarized version, definitely.
All right, so here's what it says. It says, in a recent email sent from Carhartt to its employees, the company maintains that even despite the recent Supreme Court decision that blocked Biden's enforcing vaccinations or weekly tests, they would still be requiring vaccinations. In the letter, they note that they value employee safety and health, and that an unvaccinated workforce is both a people and business risk that our company is unwilling to take. When the letter was released to Twitter, there was certainly a divide amongst opinions on Twitter.
I got to be honest. I don't understand this need to put out your company business on Twitter.
On Twitter. I have a Twitter account. You can follow it. I don't know what it's called. I think it's maybe Josh Makes Art.
But I got banned from Twitter.
You got banned?
Well,
For what?
Well, I got hacked. Back in the day, in the day, I had my Tumblr.
Right, Tumblr.
Auto post.
Yes.
To both Facebook and Twitter.
Okay.
And I woke up one morning to some links being sent in the middle of the night to some type of porn site.
Okay.
And they took me down for lewd content sharing.
Interesting.
And
are you for life banned?
Well, that particular Twitter account is I can't access it. I can't use it or whatever. I just haven't bothered to create a new one.
Well, yes, yeah.
So I know it sounds sensational to say I got banned from Twitter, but it's not because of my own doing in this regard. So
right.
I no longer have a Tumblr account either. So
right. What was I gonna? I was gonna say something while I'm trying to remember. Going back to the previous story, Tiffany says, from a younger generations, we don't use grammar in younger generations apparently.
Or cursive.
Yeah. From younger generations, whatever that means, the reason why this could perceived as viral. Anyway, the reason why this could be perceived as viral is to see what they can get away with. Put themselves into the shoes of someone they perceive to be cooler than themselves. I don't condone this, FYI. I just know it's probably not thought through, but emotional. Yeah, I would agree with that.
Oh, an emotional validation.
Yeah.
To see the reaction of their date in that regard.
But there's always this thing about if it's emotional, it's condoned, or it's okay, or it's moral. And despite what people think, emotions can be controlled. Like, it's,
But I'm not supposed to live my life based off of my emotional roller coaster?
I know, I'm gaslighting you. Let's see. Adam Kunkel says, do people wrestle with companies or brands they like who are outspoken about their views socially or politically that clash with their own individual views?
I think he was referring to the Carhartt
mandate. Yeah. So back to Carhartt, yeah. Well, let's read that again with Carhartt in mind. Do people wrestle with companies or brands they like who are outspoken about their views socially or politically that clash with their own individual views? What do we think about this? Is this... It seems to be a truism of our day, and here we go back to canceling a company, right? It seems to be a truism of our day that we are ultra sensitive about where a company is coming from in the non-operational aspect of it, even down to the politics of the owners, right? Here there is a operational aspect that they're saying they're going to mandate their employees. But that being said, are we overly sensitive to that? And is it right for us as Christians, is it right for us to, go against companies that we don't like what they're doing when what they're doing isn't who they are? So, for instance, a company that supports abortion, like gives money to Planned Parenthood, for instance, but they make, I don't know, popsicles. I don't know why I said popsicles.
Wow. Okay.
But you know what I mean? Like, is that the right use of our angst?
Well, I think I don't know necessarily about rallying against those companies, but if you don't wish to support them because of who they support, then there's numerous other sources for popsicles, Josh.
Yes. Well, so I wonder if that is that's definitely how American commerce works.
But just thinking this ties back to the start of the hour with Neil Young and Spotify.
Right. No, it does. It does tie back to it. Adam Kunkel says, do people wrestle with companies? Oh, wait, he already said this. He says, do we draw a line somewhere? When do we stop supporting? I asked that exact hypothetical the other day, Josh. Do we have a moral obligation to draw a line somewhere? That is a question. Where do we stop the line? Especially because there's nothing that is true. There's a domino effect of things. So yeah, like, is there a biblical principle that we can pull out here that allows us to still buy from this one's like a popular one, but still buy from, say, Walmart when we don't like some of their business practices?
Well, I mean, there's been movements to boycott Walmart,
right?
Just like Target,
because so I bring it up.
The way that they treat their workers, the number of hours worked, specifically to keep them as part-time versus full-time and that type of thing.
Right.
But when you look at the way that those companies do business versus the way that other companies do business, you see these exact same principles being applied. So at what point do you, as a Christian, as a consumer, what point do you either resign yourself that you are not going to be able to force your worldview on the world, and do your best to partake of it in a proper way?
Right.
What is that proper way?
Right. Yeah, that is the question. I think that we can go back to the biblical passage about meat sacrificed to idols. I know that there's a lot of context that needs to be given there. But let's see, how do I break that down so it's not too heady to get into? So it's 1 Corinthians chapter 8, and it is just talking about, there were people who, in Corinth, which was a place, there was a lot of idol worship, and in the idol worship practices, there was oftentimes meat that was used, and the early Christians knew that that idols weren't really gods, but some of them were okay with eating this food because idols aren't really gods, and then some of them were like, well, it doesn't matter because it came from the worship of another god, so you're like bad for doing that. That's the long and short of it. And what Paul comes down to is he has the freedom to eat that meat if he wants to, and there's no moral issue behind it. But if it stumbles another believer, specifically what that means is if it causes another believer to question their faith, then he would rather not eat meat at all. So would you say that this could be applied to the Carhartt vaccination or to Walmart or so on and so forth?
I think that there are principles that can be applied to that. Obviously, if you're going to take the importance of meat and it's being offered to idols and the spiritual implications that some might infer from that, that's just as much a moral decision as, do I participate in shopping at this store? Do I buy these products from this person because of their stance that I may not agree with, their particular worldview? I think the big issue is that we've relaxed ourselves so much that we've become nothing but consumers, and at a certain point, you lose control of where those consumables come from.
Yeah.
And that's, how exactly is it that you're going to replace those if you do take that moral stand, which is your right to do? If you are convicted that you shouldn't do that, then don't do that. But you're gonna be hurting unless you change where it is that those things that you need come from.
Right. All right, one more topic, and then we'll move to the next thing before we get to close. We're almost at the end of the hour here, so one more topic. Here we go. So there's this guy, Tulsa pastor. So he's a pastor in Tulsa. Where's Tulsa?
Oklahoma.
There you go. Okay, so Tulsa, Oklahoma pastor. His name's Mike Todd. He trends on Twitter. Again, on Twitter. Anyway, after rubbing spit on a congregation member's face and eyes. So let's see. Is it? No, that's not it. Yeah, just pictures. Okay. Well, he did. I don't have a video for it. Let's see. But I truly understand now why the elders used to frequently tell us that we're in the last days. Let's see. Today on Twitter, many woke up to see an interesting video circulating Twitter. A pastor from Tulsa who spat in his hand and then rubbed it onto a churchgoer's eyes, face, and mouth. This pastor is Michael Todd, who later apologized and claimed he was trying to explain the story he was teaching by doing something literal. However, many were still upset with this video as it was gross and even more dangerous to do than usual, as it occurred during a pandemic, as Omicron cases are still surging. In the video, Todd seems to play up the grossness of the video by hacking and coughing before he spit into his hand. When the crowd complains, he says that the response of the people are how people in your life will react when God is doing what it takes. Still, many were not thrilled and felt as if the pastor seemed to only care about going viral and not actually preaching a message. This is not the first time Todd has done this, as he pressed mud to the same person's face in a message about things getting too messy. Many wonders why some in the congregation would continue to go. However, since it was the same man being used in both videos, it might be something already agreed on. Either way, the spitting seemed to be too much for people. Even Pastor Todd today, he posted on Instagram about his video and apologizes, saying that he went too far. He notes that it was a distraction from what he was trying to do, which was to portray the message in the Bible, but he ended up going too far, which he realizes, and he really wants to help people. So, there you go. Why? Like, it doesn't talk about it. Is he trying to illustrate how Christ, used mud, for instance?
Well, I mean, that's the first thing that came to my mind was, Christ healing the blind man by, spitting into the dirt and
mud,
and making mud
right.
and rubbing it on his eyes. But it sounds like he was trying to emphasize how messy things may get when God is trying to bless you and you're working through life.
It sounds like it was just an illustration.
Yeah.
It wasn't a demonstration of his faith or God's power. And that seems like a dangerous place to go. James and I have thought of several we've thought of several ideas of ways in which we could demonstrate things, especially during Easter services,
Right.
that we are.
We've already decided that it would not be wise for us to do some of these things, just because of the
Right.
interactions. It would be a distraction. We've decided.
Right. Well, I'll just give you an idea of what, like, one of the things that we had thought, could make sense. We were trying to demonstrate. I think it was the cross. We were trying to demonstrate the cross on Resurrection Sunday and how death affects people. And so we had this idea of actually pulling out a gun and feigning somebody being shot, and then having them resurrect later on. But obviously, for so many reasons, that is a bad idea. And I'm thankful that in our immaturity, God protected us. So on some level, I protected us from ourselves. On some level, I understand where this guy's coming from. As a pastor, you are constantly trying to get people to understand things, and to do that in an extreme way is how things stick in people's minds.
Well, I mean, that's the whole concept behind these viral videos, right?
Right.
These moments stuck in people's mind, even if they're completely ridiculous, but it cements itself.
Right. So the question's always going to be: is this really useful? Not is it useful to get people's attention? Is it useful to drive a point home so that it sits in people's memories and they can use it? And we ultimately came to the conclusion, with many things, not just this one thing we talked about, but with many things, that wouldn't make sense. My suggestion to this pastor is that maybe he needs to have a multitude of counselors,
right,
before he decides to come across things.
Is the illustration going to detract from what it is that I'm trying to get across? Right,
because James and I, we are in an eldership with Pastor Adam and Pastor Colin. I don't know if he's ever been on any of these podcasts. He's guest starred sometimes.
Has he?
Starred, is that the right? Guest hosted.
Guest hosted.
We are in an eldership, so when I'm a very I have lots of ideas.
Creative.
Yes, I'm a creative. When I say, hey, we should shoot somebody to illustrate death, and then Pastor James says, that's probably not a good idea. That's helpful for me. So that's what I would say. I understand, at least giving him the benefit of the doubt. I understand where he's coming from. Probably not the best idea. So anyway, okay. I'm looking at the comments. This just in says, Adam, an entire congregation contracts COVID and then blames God. That's funny, and that's exactly what would happen. All right. So that said, that's pretty much our show for today.
Yep.
We're going to wrap up here just by saying that we are back on the air with Season 5. There's Truth Time on Tuesdays. This show it's once a month, right?
Once a month for the major show, yeah.
Yeah, so we're looking to do some smaller things. So pay attention to this channel, and we should be posting some smaller videos, maybe some movie reviews, things like that. But for the big show, it's going to be this once a month. And you can always check out our sermons. They are weekly. And I think that's about it, right?
As far as I know.
All right, so we'll see you next month. Cue the music.
The views presented in this program are not meant to express the specific views of the Lafayette Bible Fellowship. You are listening to the Vigilance Radio Network.